It's remote. It's hard to get to. You've got to know what you're doing.
One way in and one way out. You're looking at the only road that will lead you to one Richmond family's longtime vacation home.
My parents built it in 1970, so we've been coming down here since then.
But this secluded waterfront getaway no longer gives them much peace or relaxation. Not since last summer.
This sliding glass door was opened.
Right.
So the deputy walked in and found my sister in the home.
Shortly before 6:30 p.m. on July 11, 2017, Margaret Thornton Lammers was found dead inside her family's cottage on Stove Point Road in Deltaville.
It was such a shock and horrible thing to begin with.
The 61-year-old Lammers, who went by Peggy, lived in Ohio with her husband, but had returned to Richmond in 2016 to take care of her dying father.
She was very caring, full of energy, very charismatic, funny girl. Had a lot of friends. People loved to be around her.
And the family loved to be near the water. So on July 8th, Lammers decided to drive out to Deltaville to clean up the house by herself.
It was rare she was here alone, and rare she didn't have her dog with her, or my dog.
Sister Ann Ferguson says that she became concerned 3 days later when Lammers stopped answering phone calls and text messages.
And I couldn't get in touch with her. I started getting worried that night.
One of Lammers' 3 children also grew worried when she couldn't get a hold of her mom. So Lammers' husband contacted the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office and requested a welfare check.
And I talked to my brother-in-law, and about 9 o'clock, they said there are units on the scene, and he didn't know what that meant. And when he called me and said she'd passed away, I was devastated. I don't even really remember it.
At first, Ferguson suspected a health problem may be to blame, but this was no medical emergency.
I had to hear murder to believe it.
And Ferguson says detectives were not the first ones to tell her that.
My sister was found on Tuesday the 11th. On Wednesday the 12th, a friend of mine who has a cottage near here said she's on the Deltaville website, and this Chester Murphy guy had posted that a lady had been murdered on Stove Point. And I didn't at this point know my sister had been murdered.
But Ferguson says it would be weeks before investigators announced that they suspected foul play.
The whole silence when this happened, I cannot understand coming across the scene they came across and it not being on the news, not being released.
The search warrant describes that chilling scene. Lammers was found lying in a pool of blood. While she was barefoot, there were bloody shoe prints on the floor nearby. There were signs of a struggle. Handbags had been dumped out and a telescope had been knocked over. A knife, several beer bottles, and a half-dozen DNA swabs were collected as evidence. The medical examiner would later rule the cause of death as blunt force trauma. And in December, the State Forensic Lab in Richmond confirmed that some of the DNA belonged to a person other than Peggy Lammers. But to this day, no suspect has been named. But there have been rumors. Was Peggy Lammers killed during a random break-in gone bad? Or was she specifically targeted? What detectives say the evidence tells them about the murder. Next.
I'm 8 months into it, and my 12-year-old daughter is having nightmares that someone's breaking in the house trying to kill her.
To say that the violent crime in this community is rare would be an understatement.
It's everyone's paradise. It's a place where kids ride their bikes, people ride their golf carts, sail together. It's a family-friendly.
In the past, Deltaville has gone years without a single murder. But this neighborhood has dealt with break-ins and squatters, and rumors have circulated that a vagrant could be the killer.
Being a small community, we have a lot of people that are very concerned about this.
We sat down with Major Michael Sampson. He says the murder of Peggy Lammers is not a cold case.
Everybody's a suspect, but we don't believe that there's imminent danger, that there's a murderer running around Deltaville.
He also does not believe she was the victim of a botched burglary.
Knowing that her car was there, items of value that were in the home that were not taken, another piece of evidence that kind of leads our detectives in a certain direction.
So what baffles both family members and investigators is the community of Stove Point is one way in and one way out with a lot of twists and turns. Investigators say whoever killed Peggy Lammers most likely knew the landscape.
You've been to the area, you've seen what it looks like down there. You're not just passing through. It's not like a Route 17 where you just happen to drive somebody's house. If you're going into that area of the county, that's your intent.
Sampson says he understands the family's frustrations, but tells us detectives are in constant communication with other agencies that have handled cases like this before. He says they have also resubmitted evidence to a lab in Florida and are expecting the results soon.
My gut says that we're going to get somebody. We're absolutely going to find out what happened to Miss Lammers.
Somebody knows something. Somebody's got to solve it.
Ann Ferguson says she just hopes that happens soon because without closure, coping with the death of her sister has been impossible.
I thought she'd be there forever, and I just really haven't come to terms with it yet, I guess.